Okay. This is my Hart-Celler ACT project. I'm the great-granddaughter of Polish immigrants on my mother's side. They were born in Europe, and as far as I know, they lived in Poland all of their life until the late 1920s. They became educated individuals who were incredibly successful in their fields. But although the economy was rapidly improving, there was still a lot of tension and blame being pointed in minorities' directions, uh, happens as has happened in the past and in the present. One of these minorities included Jews. My great grandparents really wanted to have children, but the environment they were surrounded with was not a safe place to raise their child in. Um, as we all know, bullying is a thing that fills our school years and sometimes our adult years as well. Um, and bullying tends to happen to children who are perceived as other. Uh, although hate crimes are things that typically happen to adults, um, bullying over something that would later be called a hate crime in adulthood is also something that happened to children. So my great grandparents didn't want their children to be bullied or attacked for being Jewish. Um, Another factor that led them to immigrate to America was how difficult it would be to travel with a child, as well as how dangerous it could be to travel while pregnant. Um, so my great grandparents were forced to flee to America, where they had to start their lives over to have a safe place to raise the children that they wanted. The US was kinder to Jews than Poland, but racism and anti Semitism was still very common, and they didn't find that their lives were as easy as expected. Um, Many immigrants during World War II fled to countries where they had friends or family that was willing to help them find shelter and food or help them find work. Unfortunately, my great grandparents didn't have any help when they arrived in America, as their only reason to fleeing to the US was the relative safety it offered from the anti Semitism that was spreading across Europe. After they took a boat from Poland to Ellis Island, New York, and then after that, they moved to Michigan. However, the US was not without anti Semitism. And so after moving from city to city in Michigan, they moved again to settle in California. Safety was their highest priority, as although Poland had not yet been taken over by Germany yet, Germany's intense propaganda had begun to influence Poland and its politics. The political factors that caused them to move were the tensions that began to rise in surrounding countries as Germany struggled with its economy, and nationalism in Poland grew as well. As the Weimar Holocaust library explains, in the early 1920s, there were many changes of government, which made managing Germany's political and economical problems very difficult. In addition to this difficulty, paying reparations put a huge amount of economic pressure on the government. This led to extreme political views. When people are stressed, they wish to have someone to blame, and especially during World War II and beforehand, minorities were the easiest to point fingers at. As Facing History and Ourselves explains, Poland became a democratic independent state with significant minority populations. However, increasing Polish nationalism made Poland a hostile place for many Jews. A series of pogroms and discriminatory laws were signs of growing anti Semitism, while fewer and fewer opportunities to immigrate were available. Anti Semitism was on the rise, both in Germany, which shared almost half of Poland's borders, and within Poland itself. It wasn't safe for my great grandparents to stay in Poland any longer. This is the timeline of Poland's history. First became independent in 1918. 8 years later, there was a government change after a military coup, and which was in 1926. And following that coup was 9 years of autocratic rule. And so within that time was when my great-grandparents decided to immigrate. In 1932, about 4 years after my great-grandparents immigrated, Poland signed a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union, which barred Poland and the Soviet Union from waging war on each other. 2 years later, they signed a similar treaty with Nazi Germany, although that obviously didn't work. My great-grandparents' first leg of their journey to California was from Poland to Ellis Island. Unfortunately, I am not sure which city in Poland they immigrated from. So this map shows from the capital of Poland to Ellis Island, and then from there to the capital of Michigan, which unfortunately doesn't have its name. And then from the capital of Michigan is to Berkeley, California, as far as I know.